Okay. So let's jump in first. I will introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Latoya Watson. I am a licensed therapist, speaker, coach, and adjunct professor. And I love helping women break unhealthy dating cycles so they can stop wasting their time and prevent heartache. And I'm going to turn it over to Carl so he can introduce himself. Hey,
I
Carl,
am
go ahead.
I am Carl Serrette. I am a relationship and accountability coach. I coach primarily men. I do have some female clients. Really, I try to help men to refocus, to become the kings that they need to be. So when they find their queen, they can lead their kingdom. I'm big on that. As far as from a teaching standpoint, I also own a logistics company, and I'm broadcasting from somewhere in America right now, on the road, as I travel and do that. But I definitely am a big advocate of healthy relationships, understanding that healthy relationships build healthy communities.
I love that. I love that. And hopefully we'll get to talk about that at the end, because that is a big reason why we wanted to have this discussion, especially because there is such a decrease in healthy relationships, marriages, especially in the Black community. So
It is. Yes, it is, unfortunately.
yeah. But yeah, we're going to get it started. And I do want to share, we really wanted this to be an authentic conversation. So we did not prepare or co-plan our answers together. So this is really going to be authentic, because I think I really wanted to represent the ladies. And of course, Carl is going to represent the gentlemen. So let me add that in. But I am going to have Carl kick it off, because this is really his tagline, his slogan, taking sex and money off the table when dating. So you want to share, Carl, kind of your thoughts, where that came from?
Absolutely. And again, this is not I'm going to say this off the top, this is not a spiritual thing. This is just a common sense thing that we need to look at. And my thought process really came from, it was in if you get in a marriage or a long-term committed relationship or a marriage, there were a number of different things that you can kind of come and go in aspects, but sex and money are two of the biggest issues that we see in relationships today. Marriages ending. And it's two things that can disappear. From a sex standpoint, a spouse can become injured, and now you have a sexless marriage. Do you just abandon your spouse at that point in time because of that? Money can be one thing. You're making a certain amount of money. We've just gone through the whole pandemic situation. A lot of people have lost a lot of money through, whether it's been the stock market, their jobs, downsizing, different things. And people will walk away because the same amount of money is not there and being spent. And I think we focus too hard on those two things in the beginning of dating and not spend enough time communicating. So when those things arise, we know how to communicate through those. And that's really what my thought process really came about with this, was like, take that off the table. And then there's added pressure when you're dating, and we'll go more into that, but there's an added pressure when you have those two things sitting there, because if you look at the world of social media today, I mean, everybody's talking about sex, or everybody's talking about money. They're not talking, but then they say they want a relationship, and that's not a relationship. You can get sex and money from anywhere, but do you really want a healthy relationship? And I think when you eliminate those two things, we now determine what we have left.
Yeah. It's there's so much to say, and I want to start with, I'm like, should we start with the questions, or should we talk more about it? What do you think?
Let's take the questions that you got, okay, and then we can flow from there with that.
Okay, sounds good. So one of the questions, and I will share this, was from a young lady, her question was regarding the difference between friendship and dating, because in her mind, taking sex and money off the table, it sounds like just a friendship. She's like, so what's the difference? And I know we both have different views on that, but I'll allow you as the man to start, because I think, yeah, there's just so much there, but I'll have, if you want to start, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there is a big difference. Number one, you need to be friends with whoever you're with anyway. You're trying to date. I mean, I think that's the thing that's being missed out. People not building friendships. That's a major to me, it's a red flag. If you're not friends with your potential spouse, why would you marry that person? Why would you consider even dating that person if you're not friends with them or considering a friendship with them? As far as why there's a difference in just being a friend with, a female being a friend with a guy, or a guy being a friend with a woman, you're eliminating those two things out. It doesn't mean you're not going out on dates. It doesn't mean that you're not spending time, but it should be quality time right now that you're spending asking the tough questions. It should be time spent doing things. And when I say take the money off the table, I definitely want to clarify something. It doesn't, you see all these, and again, I'm speaking from a male's perspective, but I see women who will say, I'm not going on a date with a guy unless he spends $200, $300, this and this. I did a number, and I said, if a guy starts dating at 18 and doesn't get married till he's 30 and he spends $200 a week, he spent $124,000 a year, $124,000, over those 12 years dating. I know that number's astronomically more than that. But you can do free things. You can still go to the museum. You can go to the park. You can do little things. I mean, you can go to ice cream. It's not saying don't go on dates, right. But to me, there's a big difference, because once, if your determination of a man being a husband, potential husband or a boyfriend, however you want to term it, is what he's spending on you, then what do you do when he can't spend on you? And then the reverse is, as a man, if your determination is, if she's a wife because of the sex she gives me, what happens when something happens and the sex isn't there, or it's not the same because you're getting the same thing? Does that mean you got to find something new? So there is a big difference. You're building towards it. You're just taking two things off the table. And I'm gonna put this real quick in the disclaimer, let you go, Toya. Mm-hmm. Don't put a timetable on it.
That was another question.
Okay, yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump ahead, but yeah, don't put a timetable on it. And I'll just say the reason why, because if you tell me as a man, well, we're going to take the sex off the table and money off the table for 6 months, I can hold out 6 months. It's easy to hold out for 6 months. It's easy for her to hold out 6 months on you spending the big money on her, because they know there's an end date in place. When you don't have an end date, now you got to really see that you're going to meet the real person versus meeting their representative at that point in
time. I think you went mute for a minute. Are you there?
Can you hear me now? Yeah, I'm here.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. All
right. So much that I want to say, and I think one, I will say, I think it's very difficult for us ladies to date this way with I'm going to start with just taking money off the table, if that has never been done, or because to be honest, it's not typically the norm, and I say that with quotes because, yeah, I'll say society norms has really been typically the man wines and dines the woman or takes them out. And I'm guilty of this, I will even say, even that language, whining and dining, that's kind of what my expectation was from when I was younger, right? So now taking money off the table, it is such a shift in mindset. I can almost feel like a newer way of dating, because that was not always the norm. And I know what you're saying about, it's not saying that you can't go out on dates, but it's not spending hundreds of dollars on dates or dinners or whatever, or trips, those type of things. So, and then this woman who also asked the question, her question was also related, like, how long are you doing this for? And I know you said don't put a time limit on it, but I think communication is so key, because I think oftentimes there isn't enough communication, or a man is not expressing, I want to get to know you, with the potential of this leading to a relationship or something along those lines. Because I've been in situations where that, and it's like, I had to ask for clarity, and I didn't feel like I knew exactly where this was going. What is the point of this? Are we just hanging out?
Right. Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's difficult, I will say, for the ladies, and I don't know any ladies who are watching who can relate to that. And I was talking on a live the other day, and some ladies was saying they're used to going Dutch, so there are women out there also who are used to going Dutch, and they don't have the expectation of a man necessarily spending. But I think there are some of us that do. So yeah, in our defense, it's not an easy transition.
It really isn't, but I'll ask this question. I ask this question all the time. What who are you, and I'm speaking to a woman, who are you to, that you've earned, what have you done to earn the right for him to have to spend that kind of money on you? And again, and I'm going to hit the disclaimer button again, because I'm sure there's a lot of people who watch this later on. They're like, oh, that's coming from a broke man's mindset, this and this. No, I've owned multiple companies. So no. So for me, this is not coming from that perspective. This is coming from being smart in what we do. Because if it has not been working, everything else hasn't been working. The type of courtships we've been talking about, the whining and dining, this and this. If you're still alone and you've been wined and dined, why? Because it hasn't worked. Many have been wined and dined and then gave up, and then got the cookie smashed behind that, and then the man was gone.
Yeah.
See, but you have to realize there were some men that have disposable income just for dating, and once they get what they want, they're out. So you have to earn, just like, for me, just like a man should earn the right to a woman's body, and that comes with him understanding you and the respect that comes with that. It needs to be vice versa. If you're putting a drawer on his finances, why? Why do you deserve him for it to be a drawer on his finances? And again, it's just dating different, to be smarter, and we're not looking at that. Where you'll hear some say, well, may the best man win. Whoever spends, like someone, I saw a post from a young lady. It was, I'm hoping it's a joke, but she said, whichever guy spends the most on her for Valentine's Day is going to be the one that gets him and who I'm going to date. I mean, this is what's out there. And so this isn't the 50-50 conversation. This isn't whether a man can provide or lead or this and this. You can tell when a guy can do certain things just by being there. But my thing is, from this, is the dates that you're going on should be more communication, intimate time, because now you're not worrying about, man, I got to get all dressed up. I got this. And it's nothing to say you can't do that occasionally, especially when you're 3, 4, 5 months in and things are rolling. It's nothing to say that. But the first 3 months, when you're talking about, I want steak and lobster, it used to be, you're like, okay, I don't remember if you remember this. There used to be 2 sides of the menu. That always used to be a running thing. There's 2 sides of the menu. There's, if you're not going to give up nothing, it's this side of the menu. And if you order from this side, and if you order from this side of the menu, you know what time it is. And that was real. So if you're going to order steak and lobster, be prepared. If you're just going to order lobster, you might get the, nothing's going to be asked of you. And I think that's what that puts pressure on women to want to do something maybe they're not really wanting to do, because this guy's now spending this type of money. Now they're thinking, oh, I got to do this or I'm going to lose him.
Yes, I have had clients who have said that to me, or a man taking you on trips, those type of things, especially when you're not in a relationship yet, and women have felt the expectation to have sex or be intimate. There was some comments that I wanted to go to. There was a gentleman that said he's not going Dutch, which there's so much that we could talk about because I also have never gone Dutch. No one has ever asked me to go Dutch. And so again, I think, am I saying I would never do that? I'm not saying that, but it's like a new way. I would probably pause and be like, to be honest
I'm
with
just,
you,
I don't do Dutch. I don't have a problem paying for the dates.
I know
My
that's
thing
not what
is,
you're saying. I know.
yeah, and I understand what he's saying. Yeah, I would never. I would if I ask a woman out, I would never expect her to pay. I don't. I'm just saying we need to eliminate on what we're paying. It's like you said, the trips and stuff. Why would I take somebody? Number one, I only date a woman that I see a potential wife in.
Mhm.
I don't even entertain. You don't even get to the first date if I don't feel like I can entertain you that way. Needs to shift in what we're doing. But why would I be paying $3,000, $4,000 for a trip with somebody I'm not even considering putting a ring on her finger?
Yeah, it is done. So someone else said dating is collecting data, not free meals and entertaining. So true. But I think again, we get it mixed up. Let me see, I have to go back up. There was some other things. After a few dates, I don't mind paying for and planning dates. And I think there's a lot of women that also feel that way. And I've done that as well. Which is also segueing into a different conversation because I think overall, your thought is, Carl, no one should be coming out their pockets and spending hundreds of dollars on dates because it skews you getting to know the person. It clouds our judgment on getting to know the person. Would you say?
Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, and that's I think that's the thing I think a lot of people are missing. That's why I said, put the disclaimer up. I know when women kind of hear men saying this is, oh, we all broke, or y'all want flowers, or y'all want us to treat you this. No, it's not. I've dealt with an audience of grown men, successful men that are looking to date, they're looking to do stuff. They just don't want you dating them for their pockets, and they don't leave with their pocket, and they're not asking for a woman to pay for nothing. But, when it's, well, what gift is he going to get me? Or when are you going to take me shopping? Or, some of them are like, if you're dating me, you got to pay my bills. Who was paying your bills beforehand? And I think that's where we're missing out on, or he should pay for my hair and nails if we're going to go on a date. Why? Were you not paying for those beforehand? And again, I'm not throwing it all on the women. I'm blaming the men who have just thrown away disposable income. It could have been used on investments. It could have been used on in the stock market, different things, smarter. And our community would not be where it's at either because, we're the biggest consumer.
Right.
We just spend our money in the wrong areas. And this is where I'm looking at. It's just really spending that quality time to get to know someone. And when you're stuck looking at a $300-400 dinner and the steak and everything and the wine and all this stuff and the ambiance and everything, are you really getting to know someone? Or are you guys just really enjoying the ambiance? What would finger sandwiches, a picnic basket, maybe a nice inexpensive bottle of wine sitting by a lake and talking, would that not be better?
Well, of course, but I think, and not, how do I say this? I think it's not always easy for men to be creative. I think I could say that in a nice way. I think
Google is a man's best friend. Google
well, you need,
inexpensive rent. I'm putting it out here so they'll hear it. Google
okay, you're telling the men.
inexpensive romantic relationships, men. Google it. There's hundreds. If you're not creative, there's hundreds. There's hundreds of ideas out there.
Yeah. Oh, it's okay. Okay, there was another question. How do men feel about us offering to pay sometimes? In my experience, they usually say no. That's been my experience as well.
I can't. It's gonna be a no with me. So I mean, it's cute. I can't say no other way. It's but trust me, it's appreciated. I would definitely tell you that if she takes the initiative and does that, and she's really sincere, and we know who's sincere and who's just reaching and they're not really trying to pay for it. We do know the difference. Because there are a lot of men dating better. They're dating better and they're choosing better. I don't want to go any more into that and upset anybody else, but they're dating better and choosing better. So they know when a woman's sincere with that, they're absolutely, yeah. But like I said, most men, I'm telling you, most men have no problem paying. I would say, let me give a real number. I'll say 7 out of 10 men, 70% of most men have no problem paying. You got the other 30% of the brothers that are in this new manosphere type mentality type thing or whatever they're going through, and they want their flowers. I don't hang around guys like that. So
7 out of 10 paying. I think that number is higher because of your circle. That's not what I don't think, based on what my clients have shared with me, those numbers are as accurate. Yeah, I don't know. Because
you're saying your clients are saying the men don't want to pay?
They're not saying the men don't want to pay, but I guess again, I'm thinking about the whole 50-50 debate, and not to go into that, but some of it is makes me think that.
I'll do some more research into that, because like I said, I deal with tons of men's clients all over the country and stuff, so different brackets, pay brackets, earning brackets and stuff like that. So I have to look more into that because most that I talk to really have no problem. What I hear mostly from them is they just want to be appreciated for what they do.
Yeah. Someone else said, does it have to do with the age and upbringing?
As far as the paying, or as far as what is?
Yeah, say more. I'm not sure what she's saying. And Naomi shared, she would love a date with an engaging conversation is preferred. So would I, but no one has ever planned that or said that. I don't think that is typical.
I'm telling you, it's not. I'm speaking. Even in my younger years, I always went on a date to get to know someone. I didn't go on a date trying to figure out did she have a matching set on underneath that dress or outfit? Am I going to get to see it? I never went on a date like that, and it might have been my upbringing that had me that way, but also associated with a lot of men that way. And again, like I said, I was an athlete, so then I was in the military. So you know how we're stereotyped anyway. But it's just not the norm, and I think a lot of men were ready to respect women, and I just think we're just outnumbered by some other things that are going on in society. I do believe that there are some out there that just, like I said, they go on a date and they're just trying to figure out how am I going to wiggle them lack of word panties off. I mean, that's what they're sitting there thinking. I knew guys that would talk like that. Yeah, I'm taking her here. I'm expecting this. I'm like, well, bro, if she don't, if that don't happen, don't be disappointed. That was always my thought process to them. I tell them that, but yeah, I go for the conversation. That's why I always tell people dinner and the movies are the worst first dates to do when you're getting to know someone, because you can't communicate because you're eating or it's a movie and you can't talk. So you can't talk either one of those. So, and that's why this kind of came up, because I'm like, if you spend time dating, going on 2 or 3 dates, 4 dates, inexpensive, nothing type of thing, and you just getting to know somebody, you might go and do something, and then it's not the norm, but you might do something every now and then. But you both appreciate it because you're both growing together, and you're both realizing, hey, you know what, we do have some not chemistry, compatibility. I always tell people compatibility is more important than chemistry. Chemistry can change. Compatibility should not change.
Yeah. You went out for a moment.
Oh, am I back?
Yes.
Okay.
You know why I also was interested in this conversation, because my son, who is 20 years old, have had young girls say to him about spending on dinners. And I was like, wait a minute. Like, he doesn't work full time. I'm paying for most of his college expenses. So you're going to take your little bit of, no, we're not doing that. But, so I think it's so important because to have this conversation, to start to shift the mindset, because when I was young, I'm thinking when I was 20 years old, I wasn't expecting anybody to take me on an expensive dinner. But as I got older, I did. And so I really do appreciate the whole taking money off the table, and what I've also appreciate is when you are doing let's say, I went on a coffee date a few weeks ago, there is less of, I think, an expectation to continue to communicate with this person. And it's kind of subconscious because I didn't think about it, but it's like, I think I would be more likely to want to keep in touch with somebody who spent a few $100s on a date than somebody who just did a coffee date, even if I'm not really interested, So just being very honest, I think I do. And now, because like you said, Carl, I wanted to go back to your comment about the whining and dining in the past, because so much of whining and dining in the past got me nowhere. I now run from that. It really is a red flag to me when someone is so quickly wanting to spend so much, or gifts, or talking about trips too soon. I'm not impressed by that, but I used to be when I was younger. Go ahead.
Yeah. but I mean, like I said, go back to social media, which has become a thorn in the side of a lot of relationships today. But what you're talking about, but if you go on social media, what do people do? They post their food, they post their trips, so that's the norm. And so, and again, you go back to the memes that are shared. This is my expectation. I can do this for myself. And here's the thing: this is probably one of the few things I agree with when I hear women say it. I can take myself on trips, and I can afford to go to a 5-star restaurant. I stop it there. The meme goes on to say, if you can't do that, then what do I need you for? Take the second part off. Take yourself to the 5-star restaurants on a trip by yourself. That's not his job at this point in time. Because you want to know that you can build with this man. And see, the thing for most men, we want a partner. A man that's looking to marry and commit is he wants to know what you are to him, not what you can do for him. So, and if he feels like he has to spend and this and this, you're also now a liability and not an asset. Mm-hmm. And so again, that's why I go back into this, taking that money out of it. Even for men, that allows you to get to know this woman. And if she's about money, she's not going to stay long. She's not. She's going to walk. And I think that's where the conversation. That's why I said it's a difficult conversation because it's not normal. But a lot of people are starting to kind of have it. A lot of people, because I'm surprised when I see older women who are still.
You're getting some hearts. People, the ladies are liking what you have to say.
Oh, I tell them I appreciate it. Who are going through this, and they're out just needs to, the whole conversation needs to start at the beginning, because like you, I have two sons. I got, one will be 25 next month, and then one is 19, and they're dating, you know, and I'm big on them. I'm hard on them on where they're spending their money. You know, my oldest was in a relationship for several years. It ended up ending. And I asked them, and I said, you know, you did all of this for her. How do you feel now after spending all this money on someone you're no longer with?
I know.
And it was a hard conversation. I thank God they're still friends, and there are things to it, but I had to get him to think, you know, because as men, we're taught to be flashy and to impress and to do all the stuff to woo the woman. And that was wrong. Whoever came up with that mentality was stupid. You know, we're supposed to be providers and protectors, and providing is not just the financial aspect of it. And I think we got to come away and break down that word, you know, another date and time, but it's bigger than that. And so, but I always tell somebody like this, for me, if you cannot keep me mentally stimulated, meaning communicate, I will cut you off in a heartbeat. I don't care. I tell people that does nothing else bothers me. I can get sex wherever else I want. I got money, whatever I want to do. But if you can't stimulate this, you can't get anything else. And the only way we're going to get there is by talking.
Yeah. And, you know, there's so much that you said. And I think the hard part is there's mixed faces in the comments. I'm seeing angry, sad, love, hearts. I think there's mixed emotions, but people are saying you're preaching. It's so true. And unfortunately, though, and again, I'm not putting this all on men or on women. I think overall, we need to learn how to do healthy relationships better. We need to, because even communication is such a key thing, and people find it hard to be vulnerable, to be open, which could be a whole nother conversation, but there's so many areas why we are struggling with getting together, with why divorce rates are so high, with why we are not, what was the study? It like made me so sad to see for Black women. Black women are 60% more likely to be single. I think that was the number. And I was like, that's a high number. That's a high number. And I believe that number. I know a lot of single women. I work with a lot of single women. I'm a single woman, like, yeah. But yeah, I'm not, that I don't even know which way to go, Carl. Let me look at the questions. Oh, cheating. That was the other question someone brought up about how can we be assured that the person we're dating is not going to cheat on us? I have my comments, but
I'm gonna say it this way, you know, and I know where you might go with it, but it's not a man thing on cheating. It's definitely a dual role. But I'm big on what you speak into the atmosphere is what you receive. So if you're constantly worrying and speaking about somebody cheating on you, you're going to end up with a cheater. I'm going to digress there. That's an energy thing. I just really feel like you attract those types of things. Mm-hmm. But there's no way to tell if somebody's going to cheat or not. But again, yes, it's a situation where I'm a divorcee, and that's what ended mine. Who thought after 20 years that would happen? So, what she did, and I was just like, wow, so it happens. So you can't look at that, because if you ever look at that and hold yourself back from making adjustments to dating different to find somebody, then you're never going to get where you're trying to go. But my biggest thing is that's a communication piece. And you can tell You know, you can, like I said again, when you're taking something off the table like that, that person, if you got that person's representative right up front, you're going to see the true person in 60, 90 days, less than that probably, because it's a struggle. You know, the money, they want the money, they want the sex. One of the two is going to come up. But to say, how do you stop somebody from cheating with that? You don't. You know, but that's a character flaw on them. And I always tell people like this: if you're constantly attracting cheaters, then you need to take a look in the mirror at yourself, because there's something that they see and there's something you're not seeing that allows y'all to merge together. But you can't stop it. It just, you know, if a person wants to cheat, that's on them. It stinks, it sucks, it hurts, but that comes from, as I tell men, men holding each other accountable, and women holding your girlfriend accountable. Because I'm like this. For men, now speaking from a man's perspective, I'll turn it back over to you, Latoya. As men, if there are women out there who are just going to give it away, they don't need no dinner, they don't want no money, they don't want their nails done, they don't want their rent paid, they just want to give it up, it will always make it difficult for those who are trying to do it the right way. And this is being honest. You know, and so you think about, you know, like I said, why, you know, why buy the cow when I can get the milk for free? I mean, it's just that simple.
Yeah. Ooh. There was a comment: dating is a business transaction now, not about finding love. And for some people, it is about business transaction. I have heard that as well. Another comment, a question for you, Carl. What are your thoughts about love being seen as loyalty?
Okay, number one, love is a choice. So I always tell people this: you need to find someone. There's 4 pillars to build this foundation on. You need to find somebody that you can respect, find somebody that you like. If you can like somebody, you can respect somebody. If you respect somebody, you like somebody. Love is fickle. Love goes in and out sometimes. You know, my mom makes this comment, you know, my parents will be married 54 years this year. And my mom makes a comment. She's like, there's some days that she's not in love with my dad, but she likes him. She respects him. And because of that, she's married to him still. So that's real talk, you know. And then the other things are, you know, communication and comprehension. Those are 4 pillars that I think we need to have, and then you can begin to build love. But I feel like, if you can respect and like somebody, then you can wake up every day to choose to love that person. I do feel loyalty is more important than love, because in that you can choose with each one. But if I'm choosing to be loyal to you, then I can also choose to love you. If I choose to be disloyal to you, then I'll never love you. You know, so I would tell people, stop falling in love and fall in like. Fall in like somebody, respect them. Stop falling in love, because love isn't it's a choice. Yeah, there's emotions and feelings and butterflies and all that stuff about talking. It's still a choice. It's a choice. So when people say, I'm not in love with you anymore, no, you're choosing not to love that person anymore. And so that's my take on that.
And it goes back to where we started about the friendship, right? We have to build a friendship first before relationships. And I didn't do that in the past. I would quickly go into a relationship before having a solid friendship. So that's such a key thing. And with the cheating, I had a comment about that, but I think, again, it's a bigger issue. And I know it's not just men that cheat, women cheat also, but it's a bigger issue about self-control and self-discipline. And again, I think taking sex off the table for a period of time will challenge you to see, do you really have self-control? Do you really have self-discipline? And if not, it's not going to work, because even when you get married, there will still things will come up. Those issues that you struggle with having self-control and self-discipline don't just go away when you get married and when you can have unlimited access to sex. So that is something else that people have to look at. Self-control, self-discipline is a struggle for men and women.
It really is. And if we were to, if we would have done things the right way, everybody would be with one person and would never have anything else to compare it to and worry about you got married and that was your first person. I mean, that's just the way I kind of look at things, but we didn't. And that's the way life is taking us. And like you said, it is a struggle. And it's everywhere. I mean, it's on TV, it's on billboards. There's things that are sexually implicit to what we're trying to do and see. You know, it may be a billboard on a basement, but it's got something sexual about it. It just exists and it's thrown in our face, and I think that's why a lot of people can't control themselves. And I know some people will throw out, well, one of my love languages is physical touch, and I said, okay, hold hands. Physical touch doesn't mean sex. It's like when people say, well, mine is gifts. Okay, well, gifts doesn't mean that you have to have red bottoms and Michael Kors. That's not.
I was just going to say that. Mine is gifts. But I don't, that's something I learned. I don't accept gifts, and because it could turn into love bombing. And so I won't accept gifts early on. I won't do that anymore.
So yeah,
someone said, if you have who you really want, there is no desire to cheat. I don't know about that.
Character, values, morals. You can have who you want, and they can have who they want. But if you lack character, morals, and values, you'll cheat.
You'll cheat. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be. You know what comes up for me? You could be the perfect woman. You could, in their eyes, right? Because none of us are perfect, but you could be the perfect woman in their eyes. And if they have a self-control issue, they will still cheat. There's nothing that you can do differently.
And I know there are a lot of men that'll run around and say, oh, this is how we are. This is the way we're supposed to be. Blah, 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 yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't agree. I mean, that's just me. I mean, I don't attest to that upbringing, because I know enough men that have self-control and just don't go down that pathway, and they love and adore their wives. And, again, it's just, what will you do in an attempted situation? Will you walk away from temptation, or will you walk into the temptation? And that, to me, that comes from character, morals, and values. What are your characters? What are your values? What are your morals? What are your standards? And, are you going, and do they amplify when your spouse is not around? See, that, to me, I think some people digress instead of amplifying when their spouse is not around.
Right. So there's a couple other questions coming up, and I don't know how much time you have, but I did want to go back to this question about, someone was asking, they said, if you take away money, how many walks in the parks are acceptable to bring it from a friendship to dating? And I know you were saying before not to put a time frame on it, but I think for ladies, where sometimes, as I'm sure you've heard, women can be in relationship for years upon years and years. And if she desires marriage, it's like, okay, what are we doing? So I think that's where that question is coming from. What are your thoughts?
Number one, this is, and I'm gonna speak from me real quick, and then come back from a woman's perspective. Again, expectation number one from day one, me talking to a woman, do you see yourself getting married? If the answer is no, then we don't even continue. I don't need to keep your number. We don't need to be friends on Facebook. It just doesn't need to continue. And I think women need to not think, a lot of people say, well, that's forcing a man's hand. No, it's not. If a man doesn't see himself ever getting married, he doesn't have to be the one to marry you, but has no desire to get married, then why would you even continue to date him? And don't date him to think you're going to change him. Oh, he's going to change because it makes I'm so-and-so. Please don't do that, ladies. Don't do that. And fellas, if you really don't want to get married, just be honest.
The communication.
Yeah, and I think that's where we struggle with having the tough questions, asking them, and people not being transparent and real and truthful. And if you're going to lie about those little things like that, you're always going to be a liar. You're never going to find a successful, healthy relationship. But back to what she's saying, and again, I'm not saying 1,000 walks in the park. I'm not saying everything. It just, here's the thing. I brought up one time, there was a running joke in a dating group, we're talking about the 2 for $20 at Applebee's. And the amount of, and again, I'm just speaking from what I saw, the amount of women that went off on that and how inappropriate that was, how disrespectful that was, how disingenuous, and I'm thinking to myself, I get what you're saying, but then that's where the slogan came from. If you're not dropping $200, you're not dropping $500 on a date, I'm not going. That's my expectation. I know my worth. That may be your worth, but not to him. You may think you're a diamond, and he sees you as a cubic zirconia. So he's not seeing you as the same worth that you think you are. So I come back again to her question. You can do little things. You can do a paint and sip together. Y'all can go take some dance class. Cooking classes together. There's all different types of things out here that you can do that are not going to break the bank. 25, 45, 50 bucks. I mean, if you want to splurge $100 here, I'm not saying don't, but I'm saying let the money dictate the relationship that you feel like out of here. And again, if your thing is, and for women, if you're like, well, I can pay for the date too. Like I said, if you got the right man, he's not going to ever let you pay. He's just not. He may let you get, just not going to let you pay. So that's just something to think about. So yeah, it's just being creative on the dates, karaoke night. I can't sing worth the dawn, but I will get up there and try to do some Kim, some Maxwell, some New Edition. I'm going to go. It's just having fun, and that's what dating needs to go back to, is fun, and that's what that does. When you're not worrying about, well, how soon do I got to sleep with him, or how soon is she going to give it up, or how much he going to spend on me, or how much am I to spend to do this. When you take that off the table and just have fun, then you get to see if y'all are really compatible with each other, and y'all can have fun without the pressure of the other stuff sitting there.
Yeah. Can you have fun together? Again, the friendship, it has to be there. There was another question. Can someone be in love with multiple men and women, or is that simply lust? Such a good question. I don't know if you have time for this. We might have to do a part 2.
My answer is, you can choose to love multiple people, but to me, it's still more of a lust situation. I love my mom and my sister. I love my son. So yeah, you can use that however you want to use it to scapegoat it. But these people that run around, I just keeping it real. It's selfishness. It comes from that spirit of selfishness instead of selflessness. Because if you're truly in love with someone, that means you really respect and like this person. You can't. We're not designed to be with multiple people. And I know if there's a whole nother world out there, I'm not even getting into that. But that's not what we're about. We're not supposed. That's not something that should be taking place. But to each his own. If you want to go that route, you're not going to find a healthy relationship. You're never going to find that one person because you're trying to spread yourself too thin. And my thing is, I give 100%. I need 100% back.
Right. Same. Such a good conversation. As we're wrapping it up, any final comments? Let me see. I don't know if we got to all the questions, but I think we got to most of them. Yeah, I think we kind of answered most of them. Are there other questions coming up in the chat? Drop them. Thank y'all for tuning in. I think, Carl, what I want to close on talking about is just emphasizing the fact of how important it is for us to start to shift our mindset, shift our perspective. Because if we truly build on a friendship, I think we will have more long-lasting relationships, healthy relationships, less divorces. Again, especially in the Black community, because it is so, our numbers are high for divorce and unhealthy relationships.
We have the highest divorce rate and the lowest marriage rate. So we're on both ends of the spectrum. And we also have one of the lowest reproduction rates, percentage-wise. So we're being outnumbered. So our communities continue to suffer completely around. But I'm a big proponent. I know I'm going to take heat for it, two-parent households. Because like I said, I don't believe a man can raise a daughter. I don't believe a woman can raise a man. And there are exceptions to the rule. God knows. Before y'all type that in the chat, I already know.
They're not coming for you.
They might come back later when they watch it later on and have some comments. But there's very few exceptions to the rule. That's why I tell women to find some type of man role model. Whether it's a coach, martial arts, whatever, somebody in the community that can help them out with their son. Same thing vice versa with a man. If you don't have anybody, but you got your mom, your sister, whoever you can get, it's like a woman, uncles, aunt, somebody positive to help you with that son or daughter, because I don't think neither sex was designed to raise the other sex by themselves. And that's what's suffering in our community. And yes, the other communities, they have issues too. We know, but ours is front and center, and it started, 450 years ago, and it hasn't fixed itself. And it's a shame, but I definitely wish, we have more of these tough conversations. I enjoy it. I enjoy the heat that I take sometimes from it. It doesn't bother me because, as I said before, what was working in the beginning is not working. If you've been wined and dined and you're still single, what's that say?
Carl, are you trying to come for me? Are you like?
No, I'm not coming for you. No, no, I love you. I'm not coming for you. But just like even on the man's side, if you're having sex with all these women, but yet you desire a wife, what are you doing wrong? You can't. You test filed all these women, but you couldn't find a wife, and all of that. So something's got to change so we can begin to, as I joked with somebody, I guess we need to go back to arranged marriages.
Mm-hmm. Or we can go back to where the women stay at home and I'm joking. Listen, for one, I work extremely hard and I am okay with working.
But you know what though? And we could do a whole nother show on that. My thing is this. There's a lot of men that would not have a problem with that.
I know.
It's just we're going into now a modern, you're dealing with modern women versus traditional women, and modern women wanting a traditional man. That's not going to ever work. It's not, but that's another show. So just give y'all a little tidbit. That's a whole nother show we're going to do.
I know. But going back to why this conversation is so important, because there are bigger issues. There are bigger systemic issues. Like you were saying, if we are reproducing at lower rates, what is going to happen to the Black family? What's going to happen? Like it's, there's such bigger reasons why it's important to have these hard discussions. Oh, do you have a few more minutes left, Carl? There was
Go
one thing.
ahead. I'm good.
There was one thing that I made note of that I wanted us to talk about really briefly is, again, and we touched upon it really quickly, I think, about how, women, high level overview, don't take it literal, y'all, but high level overview, at the end of the day, women control sex and men control marriage. And so unless you're a woman who's going to get down on one knee, which I know some women do that. I'm not doing that. But and so I think leaving that, like, also empowering women, and I know you touched upon it, if there are women, of course, who are willing to just give it up so easily or quickly, it is going to hurt the other women who are not. So yeah, what are your thoughts about that really quickly?
Yeah, like I said, there's so many pieces to that, but it hurts the women who really. It hurts the men. Let me come this way. It hurts the men that really want to do things the right way, and in turn, that hurts the women who are afraid. I get called being a nice guy all the time. I hate it. Oh, you're so sweet. You're so nice. To me, I'm already friend zone. I'm done. When I'm dating, I get the women, like you said, women like you, and I'm out, and they're just waiting for that shoe to drop, and they end up sabotaging the relationship because they're like, you can't be this way. And then a couple of years later, they call back and they said, you have not changed. You're the same person. I just see you because this is who I am. This is my authentic self. I can't be anything else. But because you didn't take enough time to really get to know me, you didn't get to see that part. So yeah, so it does affect the women who are wanting something because there's fear. There's that fear wall that goes up, and they get a man that's doing something. I just started saying something. I need to just coin all these phrases, but I said, allow a man, allow a man's actions to be greater than his words, and watch a person's act. Learn to listen to a person. Watch this. Learn to listen to a person's actions instead of their words. See, we listening with this instead of listening with these. And that's a problem. And I think that's what's hurting a lot of people from the fear of getting in a relationship and missing out with the right person. A lot of people sit back and say, oh, I'm just waiting on God to send me the right man. And they don't even put themselves in a position to be found. I'm like, okay, so you're either going to get the mailman, the plumber, or a robber when he break in. Because you ain't going nowhere. So you got your three choices. It's the mailman, the plumber, the robber, or electrician. Because you don't do any, so if you don't present yourself or position yourself to be found, you're not. And if you can't trust is a big issue today. If you can't trust somebody, until you can get to that place, you really can't even date. Because all you're doing is blocking your own blessing because you can't trust someone. Give him a chance. Like I said, if he messes up, he messes up. It's on him. If she messes up, it's on her. I always say it. Any woman that misses out on me, it's her loss. Mm-hmm. I just keep moving. I really do. And it's not being arrogant, not being conceited. It's her loss. And I pray she finds what she wants. I don't get into what they want from me. God blocked the blessing. God blocked somebody. Sometimes we're blocking our own blessing because we refuse to see with our eyes instead of we refuse to hear with our eyes instead of hearing with our ears. Instead, we choose to use our ears. So it's a difficult situation out there. But yeah, I just tell women it's tough, it's hard, but there were really a lot of good men out there. There were 61% of men walking around who don't have children. Ages 30, I think it's 29 to 40, 29 to 56, I think was the age group thing on it. I might be off. That's a lot of men that don't have children. Like I said, we're behind the eight ball on that, but they're financially okay. They're doing okay, and that's a whole other argument on the financial side of it, what they're supposed to make. But I'll end it with this: when a man finds the right woman, his wealth earning potential increases 4 times.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's simply put, I mean, if I got a beautiful woman at home and she pushes me the right way, not nagging, not nitpicking, not no proverbs, what's it, 31 and 19, 21, 19, it's better to sit on the corner of a roof than to be in the house with a nagging wife. So not that, but if you got a wife that's really pushing him the right way, ain't nothing no man gonna do for her. He gonna go out, work 2 jobs, go to school full time, whatever, because he wants to take care of his queen, and that's real, and that's something. Last point, we don't do in our community. We're not teaching our daughters how to be wives, and we're not teaching our sons how to be husbands enough in our community, which is being taught in other communities.
Yeah. Woo. We'll have to have a part 2 because it does go back to that, your mindset, your perspectives are, I will say, not the average man perspective and approach. And I do think it has to do, and I'm not bashing other men, it does have to do with a lack of knowledge, a lack of wisdom. So yeah, we'll have to talk about, somebody said, yes, part 2, please. Because we have to talk about, well, how are people going to get there? What does that look like?
Absolutely. We could definitely do that, and I'll tell people this. I am not a finished product. I learn and I grow every day. I grew more in these 5+ years of being divorced than I did when I was married, because I had to learn how to be a husband on the fly. I knew certain things, but I wasn't. It's the knowledge I've gained since then that has me where I'm at today. Because I knew there had to be a different way of doing. So why are we combating these type of things as men? And that's where it came from. So yeah. So this, and like I said, every day I'm researching, I'm growing, I'm learning, I'm speaking. Talking to women, educated women like yourself, and just getting y'all's perspective of what y'all are dealing with. And I take it back to the men that I associate with, or when I do my men's workshops, and I take those questions to them. Why are you doing this? Why is this happening? Why is this not happening? And try to get real answers.
Yeah. The accountability. We both sides, men and women, we have to be accountable. Why are we as women allowing certain things, and why are men doing certain things? But I will not hold you up. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I appreciate it. Anytime. We definitely got to do this again soon.
Yes. And thank you all for joining in, for participating, your questions. I love it. Someone said, oh, okay, future topics, love, in love, and Christian love.
Yeah, you and I can do that one.
I like that, Nikki.
Yeah,
what does it look like dating as a Christian? Being bashed in the church for not being married. Yikes.
Oh, yeah. And it's funny. We just talked about some of this stuff on the phone the other night when we were chatting about this show, and it's just like, wow. So, yeah, we definitely could do a show on that. We definitely can.
Funny. All right, y'all. Any other questions? Please drop them. We'll come back and greet you and answer. All right, I'm gonna end. Let's see. Bye.
Take care.
Someone said I'm excited.